The Unaccountability Machine, by Dan Davies, is a sharply insightful and darkly witty exploration of how modern institutions, banks, governments, corporations, have evolved not to solve problems or even to manage them efficiently, but to avoid responsibility altogether. Davies, a seasoned financial analyst and author of Lying for Money, takes the reader deep into the architecture of modern bureaucracy, pulling back the curtain on a system that disperses accountability so effectively, it becomes nearly impossible to pinpoint who is to blame when things go wrong. The book opens with a compelling real-world example, the Grenfell Tower fire in London. Davies doesn't focus only on the tragedy itself but rather on the layers of regulatory bodies, private contractors, advisory boards, and subcontractors involved. Despite the loss of 72 lives and a cascade of preventable errors, virtually no one faced serious consequences. This, Davies argues, isn't a one-off failure. It's the result of a structural system designed to ensure that accountability dissipates before it can land on any single decision-maker. From this starting point, Davies invites the reader to explore what he calls accountability sinks, systems where decisions are made by groups, filtered through procedures, obscured by jargon, and masked by complexity. These systems don't just fail by accident, they fail by design. In corporations, public sector agencies, and international bodies, he argues, leaders often create institutional arrangements that insulate them from consequences. The irony is that these structures are often praised as efficient, democratic, or even innovative. Davies is particularly strong when analyzing financial systems. Drawing on examples from his own career in banking and regulation, he discusses how complex derivatives, layered reporting structures, and consulting firms create a fog of plausible deniability. No one at a bank truly owns a trade, a risk, or a misstep. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, many institutions collapsed, but few individuals paid a personal price. This, Davies argues, was not just a moral failure, it was a feature of a system that rewards opacity and punishes individual ownership. The storytelling is vivid and frequently laced with irony. Davies recounts scandals not with detached academic distance, but with the pacing and character-driven depth of a true crime narrative. Whether it's the Volkswagen emissions scandal or the collapse of Carillion, he paints the actors involved as neither purely villainous nor helpless, but as working within a system that encourages certain kinds of moral blindness. These stories are as much about psychology and group dynamics as they are about financial incentives. At the core of the book is the idea that accountability has become a kind of performance. Organizations simulate responsibility through press releases, committees, and symbolic gestures, while real decision-making remains opaque. Davies examines how governance structures are often designed to shift responsibility downward while authority remains concentrated at the top. The result is a system where risk is socialized, and rewards are privatized. In one particularly powerful chapter, he compares modern institutions to medieval cathedrals, intricate, awe-inspiring, and designed by many anonymous hands over decades. Just as no one person could be blamed for a structural flaw in a cathedral spire, no one today can be blamed when a government IT system fails or a multinational loses billions. The design is distributed, and so is the blame. Davies doesn't just blame bad actors. He makes it clear that most individuals in these systems are operating in good faith. They follow the rules, attend the meetings, write the reports. But it's precisely this rule-following behavior that contributes to moral abdication. The bureaucratic apparatus creates a setting in which people can do harmful things while convincing themselves they're simply doing their job. The book challenges the reader to rethink how institutions work and who they really serve. Davies suggests that many of our cherished ideals, checks and balances, shared responsibility, interdisciplinary cooperation, can become dangerous when they obscure lines of accountability. Systems that are too balanced can become so cautious and convoluted that they achieve the opposite of justice or efficiency. There's a deep philosophical thread running through the book. Davies draws on Hannah Arendt's concept of the banality of evil, suggesting that harm is often done not by monsters, but by clerks, analysts, and board members, each doing their narrow task without considering the larger outcome. This resonates especially in stories involving social housing failures, medical scandals, or corporate fraud, cases where systemic harm unfolded slowly, predictably, and with no single villain to blame. Importantly, Davies doesn't let readers off the hook. He argues that we, as citizens and consumers, often collude in the system. We tolerate complexity, reward image over substance, and mistake procedural noise for moral clarity. The media plays its part too, focusing on the drama of individual misdeeds rather than the deeper design failures that enable them. In later chapters, the book shifts from diagnosis to implication. Davies warns that our increasingly complex institutions are becoming too big to blame. As AI, automation, and algorithmic decision-making spread, accountability sinks may become even deeper and harder to navigate. Already, we see companies using automated systems to make decisions about hiring, credit, healthcare, and policing, with little transparency and even less accountability. Still, the book isn't nihilistic. Davies believes that redesign is possible, but it requires deliberate action. He calls for flatter structures, stronger individual accountability, and less reliance on outsourced expertise. It's not that consultants, software, or collaborative teams are inherently bad, but that they should never be used as shields against responsibility. In the final chapter, he delivers a kind of moral wake-up call. He urges institutions to reintroduce responsibility into their design. To make it possible for someone to stand up and say, "I did this, for better or worse." The accountability machine, he says, needs not just reform but a reimagining, one that places human judgment and moral clarity above bureaucratic procedure. Dan Davies ends the book with a chilling observation: the true danger isn't that no one is responsible, but that everyone is, and that's exactly how blame disappears. In a world of distributed systems and outsourced authority, responsibility must be actively reclaimed. Otherwise, we are left not with accidents, but with disasters waiting to happen, and no one willing, or able, to say why. In the Unaccountability Machine, Davies doesn't just reveal the ghost in the machine, he reveals that the machine was built to be a ghost. It's a gripping, necessary, and often darkly humorous work that challenges readers to look beyond the headlines and into the guts of the systems we live within. It asks not just, who's at fault, but, why is it so hard to tell? And that question lingers long after the final page.